I would like to call to order the Winthrop School Committee meeting of Monday, February 10th, 2025. This meeting is being held in the Harvey Hearing Room at the Town Hall, 1 Metcalf Square at 6 p.m. And it is also available via Zoom and being broadcast live on WCA-TV. Could I have the roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yeah.
Mr. Matucci?
Yeah.
Ms. Petrie? Here. Mr. Purinton?
Present.
Ms. Barry? Ms. Powell?
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lettieri, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment tonight? Seeing none, we are privileged to be able to move on to our delegates and visitors. We have tonight the principals of all of our schools to give us an update and report. I'd like to welcome you. I understand you're all coming to speak at as one group. And this is for a mid-year progress report, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. Should have extended the table. Next time, take note, we will.
Bigger table.
Bigger table.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're so happy to be here this evening to provide a mid-year update on the progress and achievements across the Winthrop Public School District. Tonight we're going to highlight the outstanding work that's being done in each of our schools and share how our faculty, staff are making a meaningful impact on student learning and growth. As an administrative team, we've been dedicated to implementing goal-driven initiatives that support our students, staff, and families from pre-K through grade 12, ensuring an equitable and enriching educational experience. We look forward to sharing these updates with you, and we're happy to address any questions that the committee may have at the conclusion of our presentation.
Thank you.
So to start us off, we're going to have Ms. Reynolds begin with a quick overview of the enrollment numbers at the Fort Bank School.
Sorry.
Thanks for having us here. At the Fort Banks, we have a total enrollment pre-K through 2 of 487 students. We also service some students that under 504 that come to us for appointments. So our actual total number of students in our building is 511. That number is down a little bit from last year, but overall it's up over the past 4 years. Our number of ML students is the 15.8%, but our percentage of students that English is not their first language is 24.2. We have 37.6% of our students are low income, and 16.8 are students with disability, students on IEP. And again, most of those numbers are pretty consistent with the numbers in 2022, but down a little bit from last year's numbers. And Ms. O'Leary, can you tell us about Cummings?
Sure. So the Cummings Elementary School this year has a total of 467 students. I just wanted to say that number is up over the past 2 years. We had 431 in 2023 and we had 443, so we're up 36 students in the last 2 years. We also have 5 students who are waiting in registration right now, so we're very full. We have an increase, which I found very strange, that we have multiple, in the last 2 years, we have 53 more males and 17 less females. I don't know why that is, but I thought that was a fun fact to share with you all. Our special education, our numbers went up from 18.7 to 20.0%. Our 504 students, like Ms. Reynolds was talking about, students who are on a plan to receive services specifically for OT, PT, or speech is actually down at our school. Our EL, our multi-language learners, are up to 14.6% from 13.3% last year. And our economically disadvantaged are slightly down from 34.8 to 33.6%. So those are some of the highlights I wanted to share.
I'm trying to adjust the camera so you can see it on this TV as well. It's not cooperating.
And I will hand over enrollment questions to Mr. Curley.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. So our enrollment at the middle school is 439. I think we're actually up to about 442 right now. Our percentages, for the most part, have been pretty consistent over the last couple of years. We do have about 25 more students this school year. Main reason why is last year's 8th grade class was really small. It's moved on to the high school. On average, we're about 145 to 150 students per grade. That's about the average we had when we opened up back in 2016. Based on the trends that we're seeing at the middle school, is we're seeing increasing number of low-income students over the past few years, and our ML population has increased over the past couple of years as well. So those are two biggest trends that stand out at the middle school. I'll hand it over to Mr. Crombie.
Sure. So this is always a good time of the school year to talk about enrollment, because I do think midway through the year is when we have the most accurate count of how many students are currently enrolled. When school starts, we have a lot of enrollments, but they drop off as the first semester goes on. So currently, right now at the high school, we have 568 students. As the other schools, are low-income students and our English language learner students are increasing, and we only have 13.6% of our population are made up of students with disabilities. In terms of trends, I would say that in the last 3 years, we've fluctuated about 15 students in either direction. Last year, we were up to 584, and the previous year, we were at 565. But I do remember when we did enter the new building, which was now quite some time ago, we were up a little over 600. So that tends to be where we go as far as enrollment. Ms. Reynolds now is going to talk to you a little bit about some faculty and staff initiatives over at the Gorman Fort Banks.
Could I just have a clarifying question? What, just go back one slide. This is just, I promise, just a definition. What constitutes high needs? Like, how is that number?
So high needs is a combination of EL students, special education students, and low-income students. So one student could be in all three categories. And the EL students are both present students receiving services and also former EL students. So, but one student could be in all three categories, or not. They could be in one. And that's of the full population.
So at the Gorman Fort Banks, our staff participated in ALICE training on December 10th with the Winthrop Police Department, Winthrop Fire Department, and Action Ambulance. All of our staff and volunteers are quarried, and volunteers are screened when they enter the building. All visitors enter the same building, and we have working cameras inside and outside the building. So that's in terms of our safety initiatives. We've been working with Boston College with the S3 program. This is our 3rd year working on whole child reviews. Last year we did students at every grade level. This year we used the early release days, and so by the end of the school year we're looking to have done whole child reviews on at least 3/4 of our total student population. And then we will continue with that process over the half days next year. We, at the Gorman Fort Banks, we have 3 new programs that we're implementing. We're in year 2 of implementation of illustrative mathematics. Teachers from the Gorman Fort Banks have visited schools in Wakefield and have also visited the Cummings School to view the program being taught by teachers that have experience with the curriculum. We're in the 1st year of implementing Bookworms, which is a program that works with our children in reading, writing, phonics, and phonological awareness. And we're also using a program called UFly for our remedial reading and special education students. So teachers are attending professional developments in all of those new curriculums. So they're keeping pretty busy. We're excited about these programs because Some of them are K-5, the others are K-8, and that's going to provide real consistency in our schools to ensure that all of our students have equal access to the standards. Our lead teachers lead daily common planning times to plan curriculum and look at assessment data to adjust the practice. Our special education staff has been doing PD on implementing the new IEP. Our specialists and guidance staff schedule monthly whole school assemblies to align with our SEL curriculum and SMART goals. And our guidance department also goes into classrooms to teach SMART lessons. And then finally, our site council is up and running, and we're working on updating our new school improvement plan for the next year.
Any questions?
No.
So we'll move on
Yeah,
to
we'll
the
go-
Gorman, I mean the. There we go.
SRT Cummings
Yes.
School, Mrs. O'Leary.
So I'm going to speak a lot about the faculty and staff initiatives as well, and I think that one of the things we talked about when we were planning this is I think it's really important for the committee, but also the community to understand that we have a real K through 12 view of things, and we're doing things that start in pre-K and K that are carrying through to all 4 schools, and we wanted to make sure that thread was really seen tonight. As far as school and safety, we, at the Cummings Elementary School on November 12th, did our ALICE training with police fire, and we actually filled out a Google form afterwards, and it was sent to the police and fire and the superintendent with questions, concerns, and follow-up, and the police and fire have been so responsive and so helpful to us. It has been really wonderful. On our list for updates right now, we do have cameras inside in some spaces and outside, so we're trying to work on increasing some of our cameras, having them in some other places. For example, the Winthrop High School, some of their sports are being held in our gym at night, and so we have cameras outside but not inside. But I think that, you know, adding additional security as far as putting some more cameras inside could help with some of that. And we have, like she said, our doors are all locked, and we have all staff, students, and parents entering and exiting out of only 2 doors in the whole building to make sure that that stays safe. As far as an S3 update, we did 1 whole class in each grade, 3, 4, and 5 last year, and then we spread those students out. So this year, we've spent 2 trainings already with all staff talking about reviewing the whole child reviews that were done previous years and also doing 3 or 4 new ones. So we should have about all of our students with 1 whole child review completed by the end of this school year. Those will be passed on. We'll be sending some to the middle school so that Mr. Curley's staff will have probably one of the first real opportunities to look at what we have created. Some of the students might even have 2 years done to see how we're going to make sure that this program stays, because we have spent a lot of time and effort making sure that we look at the whole child and we look at their strengths and needs academically, socially, family needs, how the community can support them.
So I know that you presented on that to us before, but
Yes.
for those who have not, can you just give a quick overview of what that is?
Sure. So S3 is, we're working with the Department of Education and Boston College, and what we have created is a form which is very similar between our schools, and then it's a little bit different at the middle high school based on the setup of the form. But we meet as a team, and there is the administration, and you might have adjustment counselors on that team, and you might have an assistant principal or a special education chairperson on that team, and you share and you talk about one child. And it's 2 to 3 minutes, and you say, what are the strengths? What are the areas of need in academics? What are the strengths? What are the areas of need as far as their social, emotional, and their behavior and such in school? What are the areas of need and the positives for family life and for community? What supports are helping them? For example, do they go to after-school programming? Do they come to before-school care? Do they need help with transportation? Do they need help with financial insecurity or clothing or any of those types of things? And what we're trying to do is identify all areas of the child, and then we create a goal. So for example, in the fall, we did a review on a child, and then we go back at the second half day that we just had, and we said, okay, those children that you identified and those specific needs, how are those things going? Do you need to follow up again? What did the family say when you reached out? What did the teacher say when you asked about ML or reading? What did the adjustment counselor say when they did a short stint of therapies? So we try to put small things in place to make sure that instead of starting over every single year, we have a stream and we can show the progress over time of how that student is. They love sports and they love reading books, and then they get to the middle school and we say, that's dropped off. Let's see if we can figure out what that is and maybe adjust in some way. So that is what the initiative began as, and we continue through all 4 schools to do that.
Excellent.
We are in year 1 of Bookworms, and I know that's a K through 5 initiative, and we are working on, as Ms. Reynolds said, reading, writing, and that curriculum has been really helpful for us because it's wrapping the ELA piece of writing in as part of the 90-minute block for us, and we've really seen excitement with the students. The other thing that I really like is the shared reading block where the teacher reads aloud to the students every day. It's a non-negotiable, and the kids get to sit and listen. And they're being exposed to literature that may be a little bit above what they would read on their own, but the exposure that they're getting and the background knowledge and the language that is being created with the vocabulary is allowing their writing to improve, is allowing their love for reading to improve. And it's exciting when the kids will come to the cafeteria and say, we just finished this book, and do you know what's going to happen next? And did you know what happened here? And it's some fiction and some nonfiction, so you really kind of grasp at lots of different learners. And I think that it has definitely had some rocky times along the way, and we're still trying to figure things out. But I think that overall, we're really seeing progress in a cohesive program that hopefully will continue to show in our data and our scores. We are in year 4 of illustrative math, and I think that we are feeling a little bit more comfortable with how our teachers are presenting that, and I think that's really important, and I think for the Gorman Fort Bank staff to know that it does get easier over time, and we're seeing huge gains in our math, and I think that's what we want to see, and I think Mr. Curley can speak to illustrative math at the middle school as well. I think our focus for this year specifically has been on looking at the data and making adjustments to practice, specifically with math. So an example of that would have been that last year we noticed that multiplication was an area that really needed some help. So we spent time in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade working on students memorizing multiplication facts. Well, now we've seen the fruits of our labor, and we're seeing these 4th graders and these 5th graders able to do more complex math quicker because they have that in place. So we'll put that in place for our 3rd graders. And I think that looking at specific areas from MCAS, that's where we'll come up with more information as far as that goes. We also use our staff meeting to review data and make a concrete plan. We have a pod, which is a 35-minute block that allows teachers to really delve in a little bit deeper, and we're using some of that time to look at data and to analyze what we see our trends and make sure that we're up on top of it. We're going to continue to use Satchel Pulse till the end of this year, looking at our data and making small groups to have students work on areas of need. And our site council is also up and running. And this year we did a parent survey, and we got a lot of good information from that, which will be shared with the staff. So I think that's important to say. Mr. Curley.
Sure. So first, the biggest initiative we have at the middle school is the S3 whole child review process. Our model looks a little bit different at the middle school level because in elementary school they have 1 core teacher, and when you get to middle school you have 3 or 4 depending on the grade. So we're in year 3, but this is the first year when it's in grades 6, 7, and 8. So the way it works is we took some information that came off from ETC last year from the 5th graders, and the way it works is the students at the middle school level take a survey. So the teachers can kind of understand like their interests, idea about their culture, their family life, to try to get to know them within the first month of school. Once the first month kind of wraps up, the teachers have identified about 20 to 25 kids per team that they really want to focus on at that time. And what they're doing is, as Ms. O'Leary mentioned, looking at academics, social emotionally, including their behavior, health and well-being, family and home life. And these are all things that we've kind of done in the past, but it's more like a systematic approach in terms of, so we can track the student over time from, pre-K all the way through high school. And by doing so, when students get to 6th grade or when they get to 7th or 8th, the incoming teacher has a good snapshot of how that student has developed and what gains that they've met, right? It's like some students might need help in a variety of areas. Some might just need maybe, for example, family and home life. If, for example, like the middle school level, sometimes you see with our ML families, it's sometimes hard to engage them, right, because of language barriers. So we're working on different things in terms of how we can do that. We started we set up a contract with Lionbridge, so that way any teacher or admin can communicate, they can get us any translator of any language on the phone within 30 seconds. So that way, if you have to have a meeting or anything like that, it's easy for that conversation, whether it's maybe a 1-minute conversation, or if it's a meeting that's going to be maybe 15, 20 minutes. So that's helped quite a bit for us. And what we do, similar to what they do with the ATC, is at the mid-year point, we'll kind of review the action steps and see what progress is made. If something's not working, we try something different. And what we try to do is try to track that data, so when they go off, say, to the next grade of the high school has a good understanding of what's been tried and whatnot. If we identify, a student that wasn't originally that 2025, we'll have them join the review list, and the teachers will work together to try to find out what things they can put in place to help the child succeed. A lot of times you see at the middle school age group, it's like, whether it's that social emotional, do they work with a counselor in the school? Do they work with an outside counselor? So that way, if we get that information, school and home can work a little bit better together and help supporting that child. So we've put a lot of work into it. All the schools have. We've seen some great results, and I'll be curious to see what those results are at the end of the school year. But I would say one of the big takeaways is that survey at our level to students to get a better idea of what the child's needs are, and then the survey is given at the end of the year. You just have to see how they're feeling about their learning experience, their home life, and things like that. So that's been the biggest initiative. The second is we brought back the World Language Program. We had a very difficult time for multiple years of trying to hire a teacher that was certified, somebody who felt comfortable in front of our students. We went outside, thought outside the box, and reached out to the Department of Education. They have a program called the Bridge Program, where they have people that, for example, teachers that live in Spain that want to come teach in the U.S. So what they do is we work with them. They do a lot of the screening process. They send us a list of applicants, and then we interview. So we interviewed one of the teachers, Mr. Rodriguez, who we brought on. He's been a great addition to the school. It's great to have world language back. I was in a 6th grade class yesterday, and on the 10th or 11th day, in terms of like greetings and knowing their numbers of almost like 1 to like 999 was pretty good. And now the process is, he could be with us for multiple years under the working visa, and sometimes that can be extended. So we're super excited with that, because again, it was too many years of not offering that. Not just the language, but learning about the different culture has been great for our students, and adding some diversity to our staff, I think, has been great as well. Another initiative is we started to see, we'll talk a little bit more about assessments later on in terms of our science curriculum. We started to see our MCAS scores and our internal assessments kind of flatline. So working with Laurie, Kathy Del Vento, and our lead science teacher, Brianna McGann, we submitted an application last week for the Open SciEd curriculum. When the new building was built, the new science standards came out, right? But there wasn't any materials that 100% aligned. So the materials we've been using are hands-on, but they don't really fit the needs of what the standards are asking for. So Open SciEd is a comprehensive middle school program that empowers the students to ask questions, design things. Most units start off with a problem, and by the end of the unit, you have to solve that problem based on the standards that you're learning. So we fit the criteria. So I think, Lori, we're hoping that we're going to get that grant. So the thing is, you can go on Open SciEd, and a lot of the curriculum materials are free. But the reason why for the grant is the professional development in terms of it's a completely different approach, and to get the hands-on kits that you need. So we should find out, I believe, early March, right?
Yes.
In the schools that do get that, there's a kickoff, and we're already starting to plan ahead where teachers have to attend professional development, whether it's in the summertime and the fall. So again, we're hoping we get that, and if we do, I think we'll see some huge gains in the science area.
That's awesome.
Illustrative math, our 6th grade's in their 3rd year of implementing it. They were a pilot the first year, and 7th and 8th are in their 2nd year. We're seeing great gains, a very collaborative approach, a lot more thinking process versus just traditional computation for math. So it definitely helps with the conceptual understanding, which is great. And similar to the safety protocols, following the guidelines, whether it's different drills, things like that. Mr. Crombie and I were fortunate to walk into a building with lots of cameras and technology. So, other than obviously the bathrooms and the inside the classrooms, there's cameras basically everywhere. And it's nice to be able to have, people come in the building and, feel safe, which is great. Our site council up and running, working hard of reviewing our school improvement plan for this current year, but also looking to put things in place for next year. But overall, definitely initiatives moving in the right direction. And there's obviously other initiatives in our school improvement plan, but those are some of the major ones we wanted to kind of talk about tonight. And I'll hand over to Mr. Crum.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Curley. So at the beginning of every school year, the first thing we focus on for both our students and staff is safety. And so like the other schools, we engage both our students and staff in ALICE active shooter training. And for our teachers, that looks like an online training at the very beginning of school, and then later on into the fall, it's a live active shooter drill in the school. And for our students, I think, which may be different from the lower levels, we're able to have more in-depth conversations about our protocols and kind of what our theories, our philosophy is behind responding to active shooter in the building. So that's always something that's at the very top of our list, and I think it's critical to go over at the beginning of the school year to ensure the safety throughout the school year. And it's something that we thread through at different points within the year. We'll talk to teachers, and they'll bring it back up to their students again and just do a quick review of the protocols, which, by the way, are posted in every single classroom in the school. Another safety, I guess, initiative, and which I think is just as important, is every year we spend some time focusing on suicide prevention. And unfortunately, that's something that's very real, and we spend a lot of time training our staff, and this year we engaged in professional development. We had someone come in from the Samaritan and talk to us about suicide prevention, which was really helpful. They highlighted student risk factors, warning signs, and risk mitigating factors. So that's always something that's really important for our staff to be aware of, and so that we have all of the adults in the building are looking for signs and know how to respond appropriately to that. So that's just on the safety side. And then, similar to the other buildings, we are up and running with our systematic student support, also known as S3. The whole child review process at Winthrop High School has required us to put together a team of teachers, counselors, and admin to serve as the S3 team. And this year we have designed and implemented an S3 handbook, which outlines our S3 process for our school, which is similar but different than it is in the other schools. So we completed the handbook this year. We also specifically designed a whole child review form and a process for reviewing the child that is high school specific, which is difficult because in the elementary schools and middle schools, kids typically have 1 or 2 teachers. At the high school, they have 7. So this year, we've already been able to complete a whole child review on all of the at-risk students in our school, as well as the entire 10th grade. Which was a huge undertaking considering all of those students have 7 teachers. So all 7 of the teachers have completed that review form, which gives us a lot of data to go through, which is where we are in the process right now. We're going through the data, and once we are done with that, we'll be able to determine appropriate next steps in putting in supports for students that are in need. So that's actually working out very well for us, and I do look forward to what's coming to us from the other schools, and I think that'll help bridge the gap between the buildings and certainly ease the transition from middle school to high school. We're also still engaged in our curriculum work, where we are developing new curriculum documents using the Understanding by Design framework, and also modifying current documents that we have. As you go through, documents need to be refreshed and modified to meet updates in curriculum, and certainly just new stuff that's happening in the world of education. So our staff is always doing that, and this framework is something that helps our teachers plan instruction, assessments, and curriculum for all of our courses. So that's important for us to have those documents in line for every single section we offer at Winthrop High School. And we also have this year, which is very new, which I wanted to mention, is an academic resource center that we are offering 2 days a week. It's open after school in the Winthrop High School library. And this academic resource center provides peer tutoring, academic support, study groups, quiet study time under the direction of Winthrop High School faculty members. And so it's a free support that, again, is open to all students, and we are we encourage all of our faculty and staff and parents and families to refer students to that program if they're having difficulty in any of their classes. And we're finding that kids really like to engage in the peer tutoring process, which is different than seeing your teacher after school. And I think as the year goes on, we're getting more and more busy up there as grades are coming in and we're moving into the more difficult part of the stretch of the school year. But that's new this year. We've never, we've had stuff like this in place in the past, but it's definitely been formalized and structure's been added to it. So we're really proud of that program. And like the other schools, our school site council is up and running and currently working on our school improvement plan for next year and still continuing to carry out the goals that we have in place for this year. So that's all I have for faculty and initiatives, but I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Reynolds for an update on assessments at the Fort Banks.
So at the Fort Banks, we do a variety of assessments, both informal and formal. Some of the standardized assessments that we do are CBMs, which are curriculum-based measures. We do them in both math and reading, and that helps us determine students' abilities in things like letter naming, sounds, word reading, passage reading fluency, number identification, and addition and subtraction facts. So the CBMs are done 3 times a year for students in grades kindergarten through grade 2. In addition to that, we also use the CBMs to progress monitor students that might be having difficulty in different areas. We also do some other assessments in kindergarten and first grade. Students participated in the STAR Early Literacy Assessment, and in first and second grade, they do STAR Reading Assessment. In math for first and second grade, they also do iReady. So what we do is we have data teams that are made up of classroom teachers, the reading department teachers, our math coach, and we meet with data meetings 3 times a year to look at the data from those assessments, and we use the data to create instructional groupings, also using that data to choose students that need to be progress monitored, and to help us differentiate instruction during our DI blocks. Grade level teachers also look at data during common planning time, led by their lead teachers, and they discuss lesson planning and again how to differentiate instruction during that common planning time, which is held every day. Mrs. Leary?
I know that in the past we have spent some time talking about the MCAS, and so what I did was just come up with a couple of quick highlights, and I think that Mr. Curley did the same. And so I just wanted to share that for grade 3, looking at all of our MCAS data, some of the highlights in ELA were character traits. We were 2 points above the math standard. Figurative language, we were 6 points above the state, and details and folk tales, we were 2 points above. And for 3rd grade, as far as math goes, our multi-expression with the same product, we were 1 point above the state. Our multiple equations to solve division problems, we were 1 point above the state. In the associative property of multiplication, we talked about multiplication, we were 3 points above the state. And then in 4th grade, for character details, we were 9 points above the state. For key details in ELA, we were 9 points above the state. And for text structure, we were 11 points above the state. And for math in 4th grade, rounding to 10,000s, we were 4 points above the state. Multi-digit subtraction, we were 3 points above the state. And equivalent fractions, we were 4 points above the state. And our 5th grade did by far the best of all 3 grades. Which says a lot about all of the staff at the ATC, and coming in 3rd grade and having such superior instruction and teachers over the 3 years. Context clues, we were overall 4 points above the state in ELA, and we were overall 3 points above the state in math. For ELA, our context clues were 10 points above the state. Our inference-based two passages were 13 points above the state, and our text structure was 10 points above the state. And for math, our volume was 13 points above the state, our rounding decimals was 12 points above the state, and our points on coordinate planes was 10 points above the state. I certainly have more data and can break it down much more detailed, but I wanted to just pick a couple of positives out of the MCAS as one piece of the multiple things that we do for assessments. I also have some data, if people would be interested, on looking at how the STAR assessment that we use through all three really correlates very well to MCAS, and how they do in STAR is really giving us good information on how they may or may not do on MCAS. So that's some more information I can share. And I think overall, talking about things like the STAR assessments that we do in ELA and we do in math. I think it's important as we sit here that at the lower elementary school, they do the early literacy for reading. And we do have some third graders and even some fourth graders that may have to start with the early literacy, but the goal is for our students to be taking the ELA when they reach third grade. So we have that gap that can be closed, and we have that ability to look at the data and figure out where they're from and the progress that they made at the lower elementary in order to continue that progress, taking the students from where they are. We also have CBMs to progress monitor the students in ELA and in math. And we are very fortunate that we have that pod time in the morning that can be structured to look at the data in ELA and math. So that may be an end of unit assessment in ELA or math. That may be MCAS data. That may be the STAR data. Breaking it up and looking very carefully and digging deep into students who are ML learners or students who are special needs. What are we doing to make sure that they are continuing to make progress as well? So using the data at common planning time with our lead teachers, using the data during pod that is run by one of our leads in math or in ELA are really a good way to make sure that our students are maintaining progress. I think another thing that we do very well is that we look at the data and then we do specific things with it. So for example, when we look at the MCAS data, we look at those students who are on the cusp of not meeting to partially meeting or partially meeting to meeting. And we really look at what we can do very specifically with those students to get them to move to the next area. So not just looking at what they're doing, but what things we can put in place. And then we do 5 to 6 weeks of some sort of progress monitoring and some sort of direct instruction, and we move that forward, and then we test them again to see if they have made progress in that specific area. So that drilling down that's allowed during pod time and during common planning time is vital to making sure that we're looking at the data that we're collecting, but we're also using it meaningfully. Like I had said before, we work with the special education staff as well, and using that new UFly reading program, which is very structured and specific to make sure that they're filling in the gaps and making progress as it goes along. We also do use our staff meetings to focus on data, so I think that it's wonderful that we have so many ways to collect the data, but if we don't take a lot of time to analyze that and use it appropriately, then what's the point of collecting it? And I think that we're now beginning to spend the time to look at it and really come up with active and ongoing live documents that help us to make progress as far as the assessments go. And I'll pass that on to Mr. Curley.
Thank you. So for a standardized test similar to the ATC, we have MCAS for grades 6, 7, and 8. For ELA, math and science is at the 8th grade level, and now civics. Last year, in terms of like what they call achievement percentiles, whether it was grades 6, 7, and 8, we scored somewhere between 63 and 79% in ELA and math. So we were outscoring, like, I would say 63 to 79% of other middle schools in the state, which is by far, the best we've ever scored, whether it's been in the new middle school or since MCAS came about years ago. In addition, our student growth percentile, all 3 grades, whether it's ELA or math, all had SGPs of 55 to 70. What that means is, for example, if you had a child that scored, say, 500, what happens is you take their score against everybody in the state who scored 500, and if you're above 50, then that means you kind of outscored a student with a similar profile or score. So our staff was very, very happy in how they scored. Similar to the ATC, looking at that data, and even though if you feel like you were strong in some areas, you're looking at all the areas and trying to find ways to continue to improve and look for patterns. And, our staff was super excited. We had conversations about why were we so successful last year. And, number one, it starts with, when the kids come up to us from the elementary schools, we're starting to see, in terms of academically, like they're stronger than they've ever been. So it's a tribute to the work at both of the elementary schools. Teachers work very hard. So a couple of years ago, we put in a common planning time schedule. So on every Monday, our semi-retired part-time coaches for ELA and math, Mrs. Carsley and Mr. Kirby, they work about 2.5 days a week. And so every Monday, they're working with those teachers to plan out their lessons. And whether it's the lessons for that week, and they're looking at, MCAS data, they're looking at internal data, whether it's Renaissance Star 360, IXL Math. So that's been a game changer for us at the middle school. Between Lisa and Laurie, in terms of curriculum materials, whether it's through grants or, finding the funding so we can have these highly rated materials. If you go on the DESE website, they review or curate different materials. Illustrative Math is ranked number 1. Open SciEd is ranked number 1 for science. For ELA at the middle school level, you'll see the reviews that are kind of, nothing really is considered high quality to that level yet, but that's something we're going to continue to review ourselves. We do a lot of that stuff in-house using different programs like Common Lit. Central office has been great in terms of adding to our reading libraries, especially in our ELA classes, which has been awesome. At the end of the day, it's the great work by our staff as well and the environment they create. Our transition's been minimal over the last couple of years, which I think says a lot, and consistency really helps. And again, next year when the results come out, anytime you have a high SGP, sometimes that can drop a little bit because the kids scored higher. But our goal is we want our kids to keep achieving, keep working hard, and you know what? Every year the data changes, you see patterns and trends, and just want to keep working in that direction. But again, streamlining that process from one building to the next, I think helps. And the vertical planning between the principals, I think has gone a long way.
Yeah.
So, and
Sure.
Mr. Crombie?
Thanks. I'll start by saying that all of the assessment data for Winthrop High School and obviously the Winthrop Public Schools can be found on the DESE school and district profile site. So we're throwing out numbers here. I mean, there's a lot to all the different assessments that we're doing. And tonight I'm going to provide you with some highlights for both the MCAS and our AP testing. And to start with the MCAS, we had a relatively strong year as well. I guess the highlight that I want to point to the most is that in ELA, math, and science, our students, percentage of our students that scored in the meeting or exceeding expectations range was approximately about 10 percentage points above the state in all three. So that was definitely a highlight for us to be further above the state average in terms of the amount of kids that are meeting or exceeding expectations, and that was in all three subject area tests. And science has been a relative kind of weakness over the years, and we've made some significant gains in science. So that was big for us to see that. And just another thing that's I guess sounds kind of small, but was a big deal to us is we were able to achieve 100% participation rate in all of our tests. So it's just a lot of kids in the school trying to track them down and make sure they're all participating in doing the assessment. And probably for the first time we've had 100% in all three test areas. And it's really important for me to talk to you a little bit about one of the reasons why I think we've done better is I think we are getting better at Winthrop High School about our data process. And so we do have MCAS subject-specific data teams that are in place starting in the fall when we receive our official results in the MCAS. And they go through specific assessment reports, including a test item analysis, grade level results by standards, item analysis by students. And each data team follows an established Winthrop High School guide to looking at data kind of form that we use, which basically uses the results to create goals and action plans that outline informed modifications or to instructions and assessment and to the curriculum. And so getting that process in place is one thing, but then making sure that you can establish consistency from year to year in the way that we're actually looking at the data has been something that we've made, I think, a lot of improvement on over the years, and I think we're seeing that in the results of our tests. But like Mr. Curley said, the data is ongoing, so next year we'll be responding to new data, but also, looking back to our previous documents to see trends and things like that. With our AP testing, so a couple of things that I want to point out. Last year, 2024, we had 173 total AP students, and we administered 356 AP exams. Probably the brightest spot from our testing last year was that our AP biology students, taught by Mr. Brett Davis, had a passing rate, which is a score of 3 or higher, of 76.3%, which was higher than the state average. And that's a very difficult subject test, well known to be difficult, and so that group did very well. We always look at the passing rate, and we always want to stay right around the state and global average, if not a little above, which is a challenge for us, and so it was nice to see that. And then our AP US History students also had a passing rate of 72%, which was slightly below the state average, but was close. So those are kind of two very bright spots with our AP testing that we saw. Another thing that I wanted to mention, that we did receive an AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award this year for expanding young women's access to computer science. So Winthrop High School is one of 237 schools to achieve this accomplishment for AP Computer Science A. So that was a nice little recognition we got from AP this year. Similar to MCAS, we do have AP data teams set up, and that is really our subject area teachers, AP teachers, going through the same process that we use for our MCAS data, but for the AP tests, which the College Board provides them with an instructional planning report every year, which is really makes it easy for them to look through their data. They look through the current year score summary and review subject specific AP courses and exam descriptions, which is their CED, which is changing from year to year in AP. So those are all documents that they review in order to create goals and an action plan that bring them towards whatever changes they need to make towards the curriculum assessment and instruction in their AP courses. So that work is ongoing right now. We have a lot of AP courses, and there's a lot of data there. So if you're interested in that thing, like I said, it is available on the DESE website. One of the challenges we do have with AP testing is we do get recognized all the time by AP for our participation rates, the amount of tests that we're taking and the amount of students that are taking the classes. But with that large number of students, again, they recognize us for that because they want us to have high participation. But the passing rate suffers a little bit when you have that many kids taking the test. And so to try to find that balance is always where we're at, to get that passing rate up a little bit, but also still be pushing kids towards taking APs and challenging them with the rigor that comes with those AP courses. So I'm going to pass it to Kristen Reynolds, who's going to talk to us about student life at the Fort Banks.
Yeah. So we have lots of student initiatives in place at the Gorman Fort Banks. Students participate in specials every day: gym, art, music, science, and computers. We have time that kids gather in the morning with their peers, so of course, like sort of informal time when we gather before we go up to class, and then they also have recess every day. We have school assemblies that are scheduled monthly. In November, Miss Kalinda's class at Winthrop High School, they wrote a play based on our PBIS SMART goals, and they did a SMART assembly, and they're planning another one in the spring. Lori Gallivan came over in December and read a book to all 494 students, and the students all sat in the gym on the floor while she read. We had Curious Creatures come and bring their wild animals. We did 2 classes at a time, but all students in the school participated over 3 days in December. On January 31st, again, all 490 students walked to the middle school to see The Lion King performed by the Winthrop Middle School students, which was really fun and much more successful than Mr. Curley and I were anticipating. We both lost a lot of sleep over it, but it worked out really well. We will be having our winter concert this week on Thursday and our rehearsal on Wednesday. So all the students will be able to watch the concert, watch the other grades perform on Wednesday, and then the parents will come on Thursday to see the concert. We're planning Winthrop Fire Department and Winthrop Police Department to come in March to do an assembly for the students. Wendy Millar from the DPW is going to come in April for an Earth Day presentation. And then we're working on scheduling visits from the MWRA, which we haven't had at Winthrop Banks in a few years, but we're going to try to resurrect that. Second grade went on their first field trip ever last year to the zoo, and this year they're going to go to the North Shore Music Theater in March to see Curious George, and they're also awaiting visits from a meteorologist from Channel 4. And then in addition to that, as part of our SMART curriculum, the school adjustment counselors go into the classrooms and teach SMART lessons. And students earn stickers throughout the day can earn them from any of their teachers for following our SMART initiatives, which are say kind words, make safe choices, always be responsible, respect our school, and
Try your best.
And try your best, thank you.
You can ask the two kids to get that.
Seriously,
And-
it's stressful.
I was gonna write down, I didn't, I just
No.
wrote SMART.
Yes.
But so they, as they do those things throughout the course of the day or week, they can get a SMART sticker and they go home and they're very excited going home with their SMART stickers. So that's student life at Winthrop Banks.
And as she was talking, I was writing down all of these things. So we have a PBIS at the ATC, Pride, let's see if we can do it, Persevere, Respect, Inspire, Dream, and Engage. And they're, did I get them?
Yep.
All right, good girls. And we have coins, and we have tokens, and we have postcards that go home and things like that. We have 5 specials. We have music, we have art, we have computers, we have phys ed, and we have an SEL special, which our students really love. A lot about family and bullying and emotions and self-regulation and those types of things, which I think is really important in grades 3 through 5. We started something new this year called the Homework Club, and from 2:35 until 3:35 every day, students can go to the computer lab, and it is free. And we do have Miss Morrow most of the time, who is our computer teacher there, and it's about homework help, and it's about supporting students with any sort of curriculum that they didn't get done, whether it's Freckle or Zern or other homework that they have, including Lexia. And I think that has worked out really well for students to be able to stay and work with peers, as well as work with the teacher to get things done if they don't have the technology at home. Our after-school clubs just began their second session, and they were a very successful first round, and we are moving forward with a lot of the favorite clubs, including gym and drama. And this year, for the first time, we had a drama and chorus performance, and we let all of the ATC students come. And so now our chorus club is up to 50 students in the spring because they watched how cool it was to stand up and sing. We had Jeff Bealey, who was a motivational speaker that came to speak to all 3 grades thanks to PTO, and he talked about standing up for self and others, and that was great. We have Playful Engineers coming to work with grade 3 students on STEM activities. We do have Earth Day with Wendy Page Millar coming to work with us on recycling. We do have the MWRA coming in also. We have had field trips at each grade level, different field trips to different places. We also have Fun Fridays once a month. We have a theme of this whole week, and the Kindness Club, who does meet once a week, makes decisions about what the Fun Friday is going to be and also what the collections are. We've had a food drive, we did socks for the homeless, we did the donations for the California wildfires, and so there's a lot of investment from all of the students. And one other piece of positive recognition is we came up, Ms. Gregory and I, a few years ago with a positive office referral. So when something is happening in your classroom, and you may be sent down to see one of us for some sort of an issue that is happening, we tried to flip the switch on that a little bit, and they come down for positive office referrals, and they get to share what they did, and we get to sign it for them to go home, and then they get to pick a prize out of the prize box. And so it's pretty exciting to come down and visit us, because we want our office to be a place for positive, not just negative consequences. Mr. Curley?
So similar to the other buildings, middle school is a very busy place. Some things we like to highlight is every month from October through May, the Elks, Winthrop Elks has been coming to the middle school for at least 20 years that I'm aware of. And what they do is each team selects a student to be the Elk Student of the Month. They come down, they get the picture. Anybody who knows Jerry from the Elks, he loves coming. The students who win the award get a $25 gift card to the Book Depot, certificate, and a bumper sticker. And we put their picture on our Facebook page. In addition, in terms of recognizing students, each team does Students of the Month. It looks a little bit different at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level, because we obviously want to acknowledge academic achievement, as well as just making sure that students are treating each other the right way. Right now, our middle school sports programs continue to do well. A few years back, we were able to bring those programs back to the middle school. In the fall, we run cross-country for boys and girls. We had about 50 students participating. Mr. Crombie's son was one of the 50. It's always a great time. The kids love it. It's a great activity. The weather's nice. And usually the kids that start in 6th grade usually continue in 7th and 8th. Right now, before I left to come here, our girls and boys basketball teams were playing Saugus. We have about 12 to 15 kids per team. They usually play 1 or 2 games per week with about 2 practices. That season will wrap up in a couple of weeks. The goal is, try to continue building our sports program and working with the new athletic director, Mr. DiGregorio, of seeing what we can offer in the spring season. We have a very active drama club show. As Ms. Reynolds mentioned, the musical, The Lion King Jr. We have about 70 students in cast and crew, which is great. So they had their dress rehearsal Thursday night. The Fort Banks came over Friday morning. And then they did shows Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. And credit to the Fort Banks, not one glove or jacket or anything was left in the auditorium. The teachers were well trained, and it was great. And like she mentioned, it went as well as it could have, and the weather really worked out, which was great. We have about 45 students in our student council program. The big highlight was our food wars that we do every year, almost like a can drive that we drop off to the Winthrop Food Pantry. It's a week-long competition. The 6th grade won this year. Well, they usually win the 6th grade. What happens is their reward was they got to play against the staff in a dodgeball game, which was fun, a little sore for the staff the next day, but a great school-building activity, which was great. Some of the other active clubs we have is Yearbook Club, STEM Club, Allies Club. We've increased our partnership with CASA. They had some grant funding to help fund a game club for quarter 2 and ping pong club that's going on right now for quarter 3. CASA's also opened up with some additional supports of social workers. A lot of times our adjustment counselors are working with students who are on IEPs that require the services, where between CASA having a couple of people coming by and working with those students, whether it's helping with behaviors or some things going on at home, I want to say they're there 3 or 4 days a week, which is great. Another highlight this school year is our Winter Fair. It's a day of, I consider it organized chaos, where it's a day, to be perfectly honest, there's no academics on this day. It's a fundraising day of activities and games, and all the money raised goes to help families in need around the holiday season. We raised about $6,000. A lot of it goes during the holiday season, and we're able to save a lot of those. Basically, we take the money and buy gift cards to give to families, and then we try to save some of those gift cards to use throughout the school year. Our counselors work very hard with our staff to get a list of students or families that we can help in the holiday season. I know it's something that works out well between both buildings.
Yes.
So when the kids go from the Fort Banks, from the ATC, and they come, and it's the same type of day. We just wrapped up our spelling bee, where you put 450 students in the auditorium for the finals, and the 6 kids in the finals are on stage trying to spell words in front of the whole school, but it's a lot of fun. We just wrapped up our Quiz Bowl competition. Winthrop Middle School is the only public school in the competition at Malden Catholic this past weekend, and they finished 3rd. A shout out to the team and the coaches, Mr. Farnsworth and Miss E. Foley. And we're coming up to our Full Court Frenzy staff first student basketball game in March. That's a PTO fundraiser. It usually brings in a couple $1,000s, but it's one of those big school events that we take pride in. Our last big event at the end of the year is our 8th grade Washington DC trip. As of today, we have 117 kids going out of 150. 117 is probably the highest we've had in years. We've had a number of families reach out for financial assistance. We have the Amy Gallagher DC Fund. So before Amy passed away, her and her family started raising money for the DC trip. The needs of students coming in are greater, so those efforts have been increased as well. I think we're supporting about at least 10 to 15 students, a portion of their trip to go to DC. Right now, I think it's about $850. So most of the kids in the 8th grade are going. The ones that aren't going, a lot of them, it's not necessarily related to financial assistance. It's just that might not want to leave for 4 days and go to Washington, D.C. And Mrs. Baxter, our new assistant principal, will be making her first trip there. We'll see what she thinks of the trip when she comes back, but the kids usually have a great time. And lastly, in terms of student life, in 8th grade, once students take the science MCAS, they have to take a survey called the VOCAL, which is Views of Climate and Learning, and it kind of talks about the school environment. And for this past year, we scored well above the state average in terms of whether it's academics, safety, and just trying to provide a good environment for our students. And similar to anything else, we look at the data and we try to improve. That's kind of a quick summary of student life at the middle school. Mr. Crombie?
Thank you, Brian. So we're fortunate this year to have exceptional leadership from our seniors in our student council, which our student council is the driving force behind the culture and the activities at our school. So we're off to a very busy school year, and all of our events have been well attended and full of school spirit. And that's one of the things that I always like to highlight is making Winthrop High School, I think, more unique and maybe special than some other places. At least that's what I think. So our student council is up and running, which is great, and they're planning other activities and fundraisers throughout the remainder of the school year. Typical stuff that they do every year: the blood drive, polar plunge, food wars, spirit weeks, and things like that. Our clubs and activities are also up and running. We have about 15 clubs and activities we're offering at the high school, and we have a lot of students engaging in those activities, and some doing more than one. New activities this year: the Multicultural Club, which has been very popular, and we've had a revival of our Robotics Club, which has not been running for the last year or two, and our students are now engaging in that again, and that's taking off. So that's definitely a positive from our club's perspective. Our athletic programs are thriving with healthy numbers, and our students are finding success on the field, so that's great. And then our drama program as well is thriving. We've done a fall musical, dinner theater. Now we're working on our state drama festival production, and then there'll be another performance in the spring. It's typical to every school year, but as everyone knows, they do an amazing job. Our class officers and social committees are planning the upcoming social and the prom and senior week activities and things like that. So that is upcoming. And then for anyone on the committee that ever wants to know what is actually really happening in Winthrop High School, tune into Wake Up Winthrop. And all you need to do is go to the Winthrop Digital Media YouTube channel, and you can see all of our productions, which is our digital media students providing live news updates and highlights on our school on a weekly basis. So all of our episodes definitely student-centered and done by students entirely, and it definitely gives you a feel for our school, the culture of our school, and kind of the camaraderie that goes along with being at Winthrop High School. And then, really briefly, I wanted to talk to just specifically about some of the ways that we celebrate and recognize our students at Winthrop High School, because I think that's important. And a couple of things are new this year, but we recognize students academically by assigning students of the term at the end of every report card. Obviously, we have honor roll lists. We just recently had our NHS induction ceremony, undergraduate award ceremony at the end of the year. We send home good news postcards quarterly to students, which I think is a great kind of little tradition we have, old-fashioned handwritten notes, that kind of thing. And we have monitors placed all around the school that have allowed us through the system to highlight students in a variety of different ways. We have athletes of the month that get posted on the board. New this month is we're recognizing artists of the month. So that's something that the kids are really excited about. And this year, we've instituted a new way to recognize students for teachers to recognize students in the form of Viking shout-outs. So that's a rolling, anytime someone wants to submit any kind of shout-out to a student for anything, academically, socially, or just for being a good citizen, they can do that, and it will, in live time, pop up on our monitors. And the kids are definitely seeing that, recognizing it, and feeling good about being recognized. And it allows us to recognize kids for other stuff besides really good grades. And so that's been just something that I think has added to the positive climate at Winthrop High School. We only have one slide left and we're done. Kristen Reynolds is going to talk to you about family engagement, really quickly at the Fort Banks, and then we're going to be done.
Okay. So we try to keep our families well informed about what's happening at school. I send a weekly Sunday email every Sunday night with updates on important things that families should know, as well as a list of upcoming events, like a calendar list. The weekly email is sent through PowerSchool, but it's also posted on the Winthrop Bank's website, and the PTO also posts it on their Facebook page. We have a really strong PTO group that meets one Wednesday night a month, and they have lots of activities for the families, as well as just kids activities, as well as just parent activities, so they share out their newsletter as well. We have parent and family nights or days. In August, we have a kindergarten social about 2 weeks before school starts for all the kindergartners and their families to come. We have curriculum night in September for parents, and that's pretty much put on by teachers. We have 3 parent conference days in the fall and 3 parent conference days in the spring for parents to meet either virtually or in person with their teachers to discuss how the students are doing. We have a spring open house, which is student-led. Students bring their families around the school. As they go to different rooms in the school, they get stamps on a passport, so they try to fill it up to show that they've been to all the different places in the school. And then in June, right before school gets out, we have a kindergarten orientation for the new kindergartners coming in. And so those are different ways we keep families involved at school.
And the ATC has PowerSchool, and there are family updates on the ATC page if you need information about that. We do send a weekly Sunday night email for upcoming events and happenings. We also started this year to include a parent piece to it. Some of the things that we talked about are text messaging, social media usage, how to talk to your children about their day, how to talk about racism. So we're trying to find topics that we find that we're talking to students about a lot and make sure that we're giving parents resources or direct them to the place where they could get resources to talk to their children as well. Our website is very active and ongoing with resources for parents, as well as some photos of some of the really cool things that are happening at school. I send a lot of my things to Patty Hames, and she puts them on the Winthrop Public Schools website, including our Valentine's dance that was run by the PTO last week. So we have curriculum night in the fall. We have 3 parent conferences in the fall and the spring. We also have a spring open house that is led by students for them to come in and share with families. And we also want to make sure that we're including families. So part of our information from our site council was to start to or think about having some opportunities next year to talk about our curriculum, like having a night to talk about bookworms or math or illustrative math. And we want to make sure that we're including parents in the curriculum piece so that they can assist at home as well. And we have an amazing PTO who supports our students and supports our teachers and supports our families, and they are here for anything that we need all the time, and we're blessed to have them. Mr. Curley?
So similar at the other schools, weekly email goes out every Sunday night for 9 straight years. It's at 7:05. It hasn't
6:30.
changed. Obviously, as needed, periodic emails go out to families regarding updates, whether it's certain events. We do a back-to-school night, usually the first couple weeks of school, where teachers go over classroom expectations. A parent basically follows the middle school schedule to learn about each class. Parent-teacher conferences are held during the fall. We switched this past year to have them before quarter one ends, because we felt like, it's better off having those conversations early in the year than later in the year, and it worked out really well. I invite the school committee, if you're on Facebook, most of our events are on our Facebook page. Each year, as part of our site council, we ask parents what's the best platform. Instagram is catching up, but most of our parents, high percentage, still use Facebook. And our PTO is very active, and their main focus at the middle school is really helping fund the events at the end of the year for our 8th graders and whatnot. And the last big piece of engagement, I think, which is probably big for the high school, is Power School and having the ability of families to have the app to check grades, where iPass did not have that ability. You had to log on a website. So parents are able to monitor the child's progress throughout the school year. Mr. Crombie?
Perfect. Yes, so Power School is easily one of the best things that's ever happened to Winthrop High School. And I think that if you don't have high school students yet, which I know some of you don't, when you get there, you will appreciate the fact that there is kind of this full transparency going on about the progress that is happening on a daily basis in the classes. It's helped us significantly with accountability for students and for parents and for us to make sure that everyone's doing their part to make sure our students are succeeding. So Power School allows that, and they do it in a way that is obviously very easy with the app and notifications when your child is not doing their homework. And so that has been wonderful for us, and I do have to give a shout out to Laurie Galvin for pushing that initiative through and making that happen for our district, because I think it's moving us forward significantly. And that's something we're noticing at the high school, and our students really love it and engage with it, as well as our parents. So that's definitely a highlight for in terms of communication. And then this year, using a new messaging system, School Messenger, I'm providing a weekly newsletter, as I always have, to our parents, but the format has changed, and we have kind of new online capabilities with it. And my newsletter that I send out on a weekly basis, it has important announcements for families, but I like highlighting individual students, individual teachers in classrooms that are doing great things at the high school. So that gets sent out every week. And similar to the other schools, we host curriculum nights and international parent and family nights. So that's a lot there, guys. So this kind of concludes our mid-year update on the Winthrop Public Schools, and sharing this incredible work that's happening across our schools reinforces our deep sense of pride that we have in our students, our staff, and the entire Winthrop community. And so as we look ahead, we remain committed to fostering growth, achievement, and expanded educational opportunities for all of our students. We're hopeful that the FY 2026 budget will support both our ongoing initiatives and our new efforts that align with our strategic goals and ensure student growth. That's very important to us to highlight that we definitely need the budget to keep moving forward with the great things that we have in place and to continue to develop new initiatives and programs. So we thank you so much for your time and support. I know we gave you a lot of information, but we're here now to answer any questions that you may have, and obviously if there's something that we need to go into further detail with, we can do so at a different time.
Does anybody have any questions?
We should plan all of these
Yes.
presentations for right about the time that another meeting is going to show up. Because it pretty much will keep people's questions to a minimum.
Yeah, right.
Just,
I just wanted to say I appreciate the emphasis on the vertical programming for students. I think one benefit to being in a smaller, to me, district is that we can do that, and I love the way that U4 are approaching it.
with the vertical presentation on
Yes.
top of it, which is not a bad idea. So,
very-
thank you very much to the principals and for coming out here and being able to do that. I know we have a few more things on the agenda. I just wanted to highlight what Mr. Crombie talked about. You've heard the principals speak of their progress that they've made with the staff that they have in place, and our focus on student achievement through the lens of data-driven decision-making, which you heard much about tonight. The current strategic plan and building level goals remain our priority. We talk about it all the time, and it is the success behind our programming. But as we prepare the FY '26 budget and begin to focus on forward progress that we plan to continue to make, you'll continue to hear us focusing on the need to maintain what we have at the very minimum for curriculum, staffing, common planning time, student support systems, and everything you heard here tonight. So I thank you to the principals for putting that out there, and certainly the committee can engage with any of the principals with questions in the future. So thank you all.
Yes. Thank you to Mr. Conley, Mr. Curley, Ms. O'Leary, and Ms. Reynolds. We very much appreciate your time and all of the great work that you're doing at our schools.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our meeting, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 27th, 2025?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Do we have numbers, Ms. Hames, for the warrant payroll transfers and budget transfers? Do we have numbers?
Numbers for the warrants?
Yes.
Sorry, they're not on your.
No, she's got it. Look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They were not on my regular. Okay, may I have a motion for SVW 25-14 in the amount of $363,138.29?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Purinton?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion for payroll warrant SPW 25-15 in the amount of $919,999.69?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri? Mr. Matucci?
Abstain.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Purinton?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the use of the William P. Gorman Fort Banks for the PTO Spring Social, by the
Motion.
PTO for the Spring Social?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposition? Motion passes. We have a budget subcommittee report.
I'll give it to the next meeting.
Okay. We have appointments, new hires, resignations, and postings.
Yes, just one new hire, Kristen Gazelian as an ESP at the Arthur T. Cummings School, and a posting for substitute cafeteria workers.
Okay, excellent. And we have under new business the school calendar.
Want to move that to the next meeting for the purpose of,
Yes, we can move that to the next meeting for the purpose of discussion. Any public relations?
just a couple. The National Honor Society induction ceremony was held Monday, February 3rd. There were 35 inductees and 27 two-year members, so that is in your packet for you to read. Congratulations to the ATC January Library Challenge winners, Ava Cook, Bernardo Xavier, and Colin O'Brien. And congratulations, as you heard tonight, to the Quiz Bowl. They captured third place. Winthrop Public Schools was the only public school competing, and hats off to Aramara, Naomi Berchicki, Nick Lemieux, Audrey Carroll, Veronica Howington, and Luca Borrega, and shout out to the coaches, Mrs. Foley and Mr. Farnsworth.
Excellent. Any other public relations? I would like to just briefly give an update on the Citizens Committee that is working on behalf of the override that we have asked for. They met last week with a number of people who are on the fire building committee, firehouse building committee, and also citizens who are interested in order to be making the next steps. So their next steps are to be understanding the implications of what would happen if it does not pass, and if it does, and what the benefits would be if it does pass, so that information can be disseminated. And that those meetings will be ongoing, and anybody who is interested in being a part of that
Can reach out to yes4winthrops with an S, kids with an S, @gmail.com, or contact me and I can provide you with that information if it doesn't come through clearly.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, we are adjourned.